When a quiet 12-year-old girl steps into a biker garage at dusk, she isn't asking for help, she's delivering a warning. Someone has been watching a teenage girl after school, always from a distance, always unnoticed. Everyone else missed it. Michelle didn't. And once the truth surfaces, the Iron Circle must decide how far they're willing to go to stop what's coming next. The garage was a working place, not a hangout. Open tool chests, unfinished engines, and old posters peeling from the walls made it clear this wasn't meant for visitors. Michelle had memorized every corner by now. She'd been coming here for 3 months, usually at dusk, lingering just outside the ring of light where the Iron Circle gathered around their bikes. Nobody told her to leave. That alone made this place different from everywhere else. She sat on an overturned crate near the chain-link fence, knees pulled to her chest, watching the bikers work. They moved with purpose, tightening bolts, wiping chrome, speaking in low voices that rumbled like distant thunder. Michelle had learned their names by listening. Aiden was the quiet one, tall and lean, with gray threading through his dark hair. He rarely smiled, rarely spoke, but when he did, the others listened. Tonight, something felt wrong. Michelle had seen him 3 times now. The man with the snake tattoo winding up his forearm, the one who parked his van 2 blocks from Lincoln High and waited for her. The girl with the dark ponytail and the oversized backpack. Aiden's daughter. Michelle knew because she'd followed them both. Not in a creepy way. She followed everyone. It was habit. Survival. When you bounce between foster homes, you learn to read people, to notice patterns, to see the things adults missed because they were too busy or too tired or too convinced kids didn't understand. She'd watched the man for a week before she was sure. He never got close, never called out, just watched. Always from a distance. Always when the girl was alone. Michelle's stomach twisted. The memory came back sharp and unwanted. Another girl at another school, another man who watched too long. Michelle had kept quiet then, convinced herself she was overreacting. When that girl returned 2 weeks later with something extinguished behind her eyes, Michelle understood her silence had a cost. Her foster mother's voice echoed in her head. Stop making things up for attention, Michelle. Not everyone is out to get you. But this wasn't made up. She stood, legs shaking slightly, and walked toward the garage. Aiden was crouched beside his Harley, rag in hand, wiping down the engine casing. The light caught the silver in his beard. Michelle stopped 3 feet away. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. Excuse me. Aiden didn't look up immediately. He finished his stroke along the metal, then tilted his head toward her. His eyes were dark, unreadable. Yeah. Michelle's hands clenched at her sides. I need to tell you something. He straightened slowly, joints creaking. Around them, the noise of the garage dimmed. A few other members glanced over, curious. All right, Aiden said. His tone wasn't warm, but it wasn't dismissive either. She forced the words out before she could swallow them back. I saw him follow your daughter. Aiden's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. What? After school. 3 times this week. There's a man. He parks near the science building and waits until she leaves. Then he follows her. Not close, but he's there. Aiden's jaw tightened. Kid, I don't know what you think you saw. He has a snake tattoo. Green and black. Goes from his wrist to his elbow. And a scar here. She touched her left eyebrow. He drives a gray van with a dent in the back door. The air changed. Aiden went very still. What did you say about the tattoo? Michelle repeated it, her voice steadier now. A snake. Green and black. Behind Aiden, another biker, someone they called Nolan, stepped closer. Aiden, that sounds like, I know who it sounds like. Aiden's voice was low, almost a growl. Michelle watched his hands curl into fists, then release. He crouched down to her level, searching her face. You're sure? You're absolutely sure. She nodded. Why didn't you tell anyone else? A teacher? Your parents? Michelle looked away. Teachers don't listen, and I don't have parents. I have a placement. The words hung there, heavier than she meant them to be. Aiden studied her for a long moment, Then he stood and turned to Nolan. Get Pete and Bones. Garage. Now. Nolan disappeared without question. Aiden looked back down at Michelle. What's your name? Michelle. All right, Michelle. I need you to tell me everything. From the beginning. Every detail. So she did. She told him about the first time she noticed the van, about the way the man always wore a baseball cap pulled low, about how he never approached but never left either. She told him about the route Sadie took home, about the shortcut through the park, about the moments when the man got close enough that Michelle could see his face clearly. By the time she finished, more bikers had gathered around them. Aiden's expression was carved from stone. That's Calder, one of them muttered. Aiden nodded slowly. Yeah, that's Calder. Michelle didn't know who Calder was, but the name made the men exchange glances that said enough. Trouble, danger, history. Aiden exhaled through his nose. We kicked him out 2 years ago. Violent, unstable. Thought he'd moved on. Guess he didn't, Nolan said. Aiden ran a hand over his face, suddenly looking older. When he focused on Michelle again, something in his expression had softened. You did good coming to me. Real good. But I need you to stay away from this now. Stay away from him. Understand? Michelle wanted to argue, wanted to say she could help, but the look in his eyes stopped her. Okay, she whispered. Aiden reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled business card. He scribbled a number on the back. That's my cell. You see him again, you call me. Don't follow him. Don't try to be a hero. Just call. Michelle took the card, her fingers brushing his calloused palm. As she turned to leave, Aiden called after her. Michelle. She looked back. Thank you. No one had thanked her for speaking up in longer than she could remember. Michelle walked home through the growing dark, the card pressed tight in her fist, wondering if she just saved someone's life, or put herself in the middle of something she didn't fully understand. Behind her, in the garage, the Iron Circle began to plan. The Iron Circle met at midnight, long after the garage had officially closed. 11 men sat in a rough circle under the fluorescent lights, their faces cast in harsh shadows. Aiden stood at the center, arms crossed, jaw set. Calder's back. He's watching Sadie. The words came out flat, factual. No room for debate. A younger member named Edwin leaned forward. You sure it's him? Could be someone who just looks. The kid described his tattoo, the scar, the van we all saw him drive. Aiden's voice hardened. It's him. Pete, the club's treasurer and oldest member, rubbed his gray beard. 2 years of silence and now this. Why come back? Why target your girl? Revenge, Nolan said quietly. He blamed Aiden for the vote, said we turned on him, exiled him like trash. We exiled him because he put a bartender in the hospital over a spilled drink. Pete shot back. Man was unstable. Aiden's fists clenched. Doesn't matter why. What matters is he's hunting my daughter, and we stop him before he gets close. Police, Edwin asked. And tell them what? A foster kid saw a guy with a tattoo? They'll file a report and do nothing. Aiden shook his head. We handle this. Quiet. Smart. We watch Sadie, we track Calder. And when we have proof, we turn him over with enough evidence they can't ignore. You want us to babysit a teenage girl without her knowing? Bones, a broad-shouldered man with scarred knuckles, raised an eyebrow. Exactly that. The men exchanged looks. Finally, Pete nodded. All right, rotating shifts. 2-man teams. We keep distance, stay invisible. First sign Calder makes a move, we box him in. Aiden exhaled slowly. Thank you. We protect our own, Pete said simply. Always have. The surveillance started the next morning. Nolan and Edwin took first shift, positioned across from Lincoln High in a battered pickup that blended with the school parking lot. They watched students flood through the gates, backpacks slung over shoulders, voices carrying across asphalt. Sadie appeared mid-morning, earbuds in, ponytail swinging. She walked with her head down, disconnected from the chaos around her. She didn't notice the pickup, didn't notice her father's world quietly wrapping around her like armor. At 3:40, when the final bell rang, Nolan spotted the gray van. There, he muttered, nudging Edwin. The van sat 2 blocks east, engine off. Through binoculars, Nolan could just make out the driver's profile. Baseball cap, sunglasses, snake tattoo visible when he rested his arm on the window frame. That's him. Sadie emerged 10 minutes later, alone. She started down Maple Street, taking her usual route. The van waited 30 seconds, then pulled out, following at a crawl. Nolan started the truck. Stay on him. Don't let him see us. They trailed the van for 6 blocks, watching as Calder maintained his distance from Sadie, close enough to track her, far enough to seem coincidental. When she turned into the park shortcut, he stopped at the entrance, watching until she disappeared into the trees, then drove off. He's scouting, Edwin said, learning her patterns, building up to something. Nolan agreed, his gut twisting. Michelle showed up at the garage that evening with a notebook. She found Aiden outside, smoking a cigarette he clearly didn't want. You're supposed to stay away, he said, but his tone lacked bite. I drew him. She opened the notebook, revealing a detailed sketch. Calder's face stared back from the page. The scar, the hard line of his mouth, the cold set of his eyes. Below it, she'd mapped out his van, the license plate partially visible, the dent she'd described before. Aiden stared at the drawing. This is detailed. I'm good at noticing things. Michelle hesitated. Did you find him? Yeah, we found him. Michelle waited. He's real. Following the route you described. Aiden crouched down, meeting her eyes. Michelle, why do you care this much? You don't know Sadie. You don't know me. Michelle's throat tightened. I tried warning someone once. They didn't listen, and I watched things fall apart. I can't watch that happen again. The weight in her voice made Aiden pause. He saw something familiar in her expression. The haunted look of someone who'd learned too young that the world didn't always protect the vulnerable. Where's your foster family now? He asked gently. Home. Probably don't even know I'm gone. She shrugged, trying for casual and failing. They're not mean. Just not there. Aiden stubbed out his cigarette. You eat today? Michelle shook her head. Come on. He led her inside to a small back office where the club kept a mini fridge and a microwave. He heated up leftover pizza and watched as she devoured 3 slices in silence. When she finished, he handed her a soda. I've never felt this safe anywhere, she said, the words almost inaudible. Aiden sat down across from her. Michelle, if things get bad at your placement, you tell someone. You tell me. She looked up, surprised. Why do you care? Because someone should. His voice was rough. And because you saved my daughter. That means something. Michelle felt a lump form in her throat. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Later, as she walked back toward her foster home, the notebook tucked under her arm, she let herself imagine something impossible. A place where people noticed when you were gone, where your observations mattered, where speaking up didn't get you labeled a liar. Behind her, the Iron Circle continued their watch through the night, silent sentinels in the dark. 2 miles away, Calder sat in his van outside a convenience store. Sadie's photograph was taped to his dashboard, edges worn from handling. His lips moved, rehearsing words no one else would hear. Sadie first noticed the bikes on Thursday afternoon. 2 Harleys, always a block behind, engines rumbling low. She told herself it was coincidence. The Iron Circle had routes through town. But when she cut through the alley behind the pharmacy and they followed, her stomach dropped. By Friday, she was sure. Her father was having her followed. She stormed into the house that evening, slamming her backpack onto the kitchen table where Aiden sat nursing black coffee. What the hell, Dad? He looked up slowly, unsurprised. Watch your mouth. Watch my... Are you serious right now? You have your biker buddies stalking me at school? They're not stalking you. They're protecting you. From what? She threw her hands up. From having a normal life? From making my own decisions? Mom died 3 years ago, and you're still treating me like I'm going to disappear if you blink. Aiden's jaw tightened at the mention of his wife. Sadie, sit down. I don't want to sit down. I want you to back off. Sit down. The command in his voice stopped her. She'd heard that tone maybe twice in her life. It meant something was seriously wrong. She sat, arms crossed defensively. Aiden rubbed his face, suddenly looking exhausted. There's someone watching you. A man named Calder. Used to be in the club before you were born. We kicked him out 2 years ago, and now he's back. He's been following you after school. Sadie's defiance flickered. What? A girl spotted him. Told me about it. We've been tracking him since Tuesday. Aiden leaned forward, his eyes intense. He's dangerous, Sadie. And he's fixated on you because of me. Because of you? Her voice cracked slightly. What did you do? I voted to exile him. We all did. But he blamed me specifically. Aiden's hands curled into fists on the table. He said I'd pay for it. I thought he'd moved on. I was wrong. Sadie felt her breath catch. Suddenly, all those moments over the past weeks rushed back. The prickling sensation on her neck walking home. The grave she'd seen twice near the park. The feeling she'd dismissed as paranoia born from grief and anxiety. I thought I was imagining it, she whispered. I felt like someone was watching me. But I told myself I was being stupid. Aiden's expression softened with something close to pain. You weren't stupid. Your instincts were right. Tears burned behind Sadie's eyes. 3 years of walls between them. 3 years of convincing herself he'd chosen the club over her when Mom died. But the exhaustion carved into his face, the fear he couldn't quite mask. She recognized it now as the same grief that had been drowning her. Why didn't you just tell me? She asked. Would you have listened? Fair point. She probably would have accused him of making it up to control her. The distance between them had grown so wide that trust felt like a foreign language. What's his name again? She asked quietly. Calder. And this girl who saw him. Who is she? Michelle. 12 years old. Foster kid. She hangs around the garage sometimes. Aiden's voice held unexpected warmth. She's observant. Smart. She came to me because no one else was paying attention. Sadie processed this. A kid she'd never met had potentially saved her life while she'd been too wrapped up in her own resentment to notice danger circling. I want to meet her, Sadie said. Aiden nodded. I'll arrange it. The meeting happened Saturday morning at a diner downtown. Michelle sat in the booth across from Sadie and Aiden, picking at pancakes she'd barely touched despite being hungry. Michelle was small for 12, but her eyes held the kind of wariness that came from years of not being believed. She sat like someone ready to leave at the first sign of dismissal. Thank you, Sadie said simply, for speaking up. Michelle looked surprised. You're not mad. Mad? You probably saved my life. I saw something wrong and said something. Michelle shrugged, but Sadie could see the emotion behind the gesture. Most people look the other way, Sadie said, her voice calm. They talked for an hour. Michelle explained what she'd seen, the patterns she'd noticed. Sadie shared her own experiences, the unease, the feeling of being hunted. Aiden sat mostly silent, watching his daughter connect with this strange, brave kid who'd stumbled into their lives. When Michelle excused herself to the restroom, Sadie turned to her father. She doesn't have anyone, does she? Not really. That's not right. Aiden's mouth curved slightly. No, it's not. That afternoon, everything escalated. Sadie opened her locker at school to find a note tucked between her textbooks. Block letters, jagged and angry. Your father took everything from me. I'm just balancing the scales. Her hands shook as she read it. Someone had been inside her locker, inside the school, close enough to touch her things. She called Aiden immediately. Within an hour, the Iron Circle convened at the garage. The note sat on the workbench, photographed and bagged. Pete examined it through reading glasses, his expression grim. He's escalating, Nolan said. Getting bolder. We can't wait anymore, Bones added. Next time he might not leave a note. Aiden stood rigid, fury and fear warring in his chest. Calder had crossed a line. This wasn't surveillance anymore. This was a direct threat. We need to end this, he said. Now. But we do it clean. No violence unless he forces our hand. We catch him, we document everything, and we hand him to the cops with enough evidence to bury him. How? Edwin asked. Aiden looked at Pete. We set a trap. Use Sadie as bait. Absolutely not, Sadie said from the doorway. Everyone turned. She stood there, chin raised, defiant. Yes, use me as bait. But I'm not a victim in this. I help plan it or I don't cooperate. Aiden wanted to refuse. Every instinct screamed to lock her away somewhere safe. But looking at his daughter, he recognized her mother's unbreakable resolve. The strength grief had hidden from him. All right, he said quietly. We plan this together. The plan was simple in theory, terrifying in execution. Sadie would walk her usual route Tuesday evening, but instead of cutting through the park, she'd take the long way down Industrial Boulevard. A street with fewer exits, wider sight lines, and a warehouse the club had accessed through a contact who owed Pete a favor. Michelle insisted on being part of it. Aiden resisted until she pointed out the obvious. I know what he looks like up close. I know how he moves. You need me. They gave her a rooftop position with binoculars and a walkie-talkie. Stationed with Pete who'd keep her safe. 8 other club members spread throughout the zone. Some on bikes, some in vehicles, all connected by radio. A sympathetic cop named Larder, who'd grown up in the neighborhood and respected what the Iron Circle had become, agreed to stay close with backup ready. Sadie wore a wire. Her hands trembled as Aiden clipped the small microphone inside her jacket collar that morning. You don't have to do this, he said for the 10th time. Yes, I do. She met his eyes. He made this about me. I'm finishing it. Sadie left school when the late buses pulled away, the parking lot nearly empty. The autumn air bit cold, leaves skittering across pavement. She forced herself to walk naturally, headphones in but music off, every sense heightened. From the rooftop 3 blocks away, Michelle pressed binoculars to her eyes. I see her, she whispered into the radio. She's heading west on Maple. Copy. Aiden's voice crackled back. He sat on his bike 2 streets over, engine idling, knuckles white on the handlebars. 60 seconds passed. Then Michelle's voice again, tighter. Gray van just pulled out from the school lot. He's following. Sadie heard the transmission through her hidden earpiece. Her heart hammered, but she kept walking step after measured step. The van crept closer. Through his side mirror, Calder watched the girl who looked so much like her father it made his blood simmer. 2 years of nothing, no club, no respect, no family, because Aiden Cole had convinced the others he was a liability. Time to show him what loss really meant. Sadie turned onto Industrial Boulevard. The street stretched empty ahead, warehouses rising like concrete tombs on either side. She could hear the van's engine now, a low growl 20 yards back. He's closing distance, Michelle reported. Her voice steady despite the fear coiling in her stomach. 15 yards. 10. The Iron Circle tightened their net. Nolan and Bones blocked the north exit in a pickup truck. Edwin and another member sealed the south. Aiden circled to the rear approach, every muscle coiled. Calder accelerated slightly. This was it. The quiet street, the isolated girl, the perfect moment to grab her. Make Cole understand what it felt like to have everything ripped away. He didn't see the trap until it closed. Sadie stopped walking and turned around. Faced him directly. Calder hit the brakes. Confused. The girl just stood there. No fear in her expression. Wrong. This was wrong. Motorcycles roared to life from 3 directions. Headlights flooded the street. The van was suddenly boxed in, surrounded by leather and chrome and men who'd spent 2 years hoping they'd never see Calder's face again. He tried to reverse. Bones' pickup blocked him. He tried to go forward. Nolan cut him off. Calder threw the van into park and burst out, wild-eyed, hand reaching for something in his waistband. Stay back. Stay the hell back. Aiden dismounted slowly, hands visible. It's over, Calder. Over? You destroyed my life. Spittle flew from Calder's mouth. I gave everything to this club, and you threw me away like garbage. You put an innocent man in the hospital, Aiden said quietly. You made that choice, and you made yours. Calder's eyes found Sadie. Now she pays for it. He lunged. Aiden moved with a speed that seemed impossible. He intercepted Calder mid-stride, deflecting the knife that had appeared in his hand, using momentum to slam him against the van. The blade clattered to asphalt. Bones and Nolan converged, pinning Calder's arms. He thrashed, screaming incoherently, but it was finished. Sirens wailed in the distance. Larder's backup arriving right on schedule. From the rooftop, Michelle's held breath finally escaped her lungs. "It's done," she whispered. Pete squeezed her shoulder. "You did good, kid." The police took Calder away in handcuffs, still raging. Larder collected evidence, the note, surveillance footage from the school, photos of the van, witness statements from Michelle and Sadie. Enough to ensure Calder would face charges for stalking, attempted assault, and violation of a restraining order the club had quietly filed days earlier. As the sun dipped below the warehouses, painting the sky rust and gold, the iron circle gathered in the empty street. Sadie stood among them, no longer an outsider. Michelle, too, perched on the seat of Aiden's Harley like she belonged there. "Never thought I'd see the day we worked with cops," Edwin muttered. "Times change," Pete said. "We change with them." 2 weeks later, Sadie stood at a community meeting in the neighborhood center, microphone in hand. Her voice shook at first, then steadied. "Someone saved my life." Michelle Robson saw what everyone else missed and refused to stay quiet. At 12, she showed more courage than most adults ever will. Michelle, sitting in the back row, felt her face burn. But when Sadie gestured for her to stand, she did. The applause that followed was genuine, warm. After the meeting, Bones approached Aiden. "My sister's got a spare room. Good woman. Been asking about fostering. If Michelle's interested." Aiden looked at Michelle, who'd overheard. Her eyes were wide, hopeful. "Yeah," Aiden said. "Let's talk to her." That night, Aiden spoke to the gathered club and community members. About grief, the guilt of failing to protect people you love. About learning to trust again because a kid had the courage to trust him first. When he finished, Sadie hugged him. Actually hugged him. The Iron Circle didn't ride off. They stayed. They built neighborhood watch programs. They escorted kids home. And slowly, the community stopped seeing them as threats and started seeing them as what they'd always been underneath the leather and noise. Protectors. Michelle moved in with Bones' sister 3 days later. Her room had windows that locked from the inside, photos already waiting on the walls, and people who asked about her day when she came home. She'd spent her whole life invisible. Not anymore. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust someone with the truth, even when you're afraid no one will listen. Michelle risked everything to protect a girl she barely knew, and in doing so, she found the family she'd been searching for. Drop your thoughts below, and if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to Embrace the Journey for more stories that remind us why courage, loyalty, and second chances matter. See you in our next video.